What's up, Magic Fam? It's Blue here at Blue Bears Games, and for this week's videos, I will be unboxing and then upgrading the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Desert Bloom Commander Precon. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to ask for your help in supporting my channel, which can be done in the following ways. Subscribing to the channel, sharing any of my content on your socials, watching some of my many other videos, purchasing Super Thanks, purchasing channel memberships, purchasing decks that you may have seen on this channel directly from me on the Blue Bears Games Facebook page, and/or visiting our sponsor at arcane-fortress.com and using discount code BLUEBEAR at checkout if you decide to purchase any of their amazing gaming supplies from them. Anything that you do will help support my channel immensely, and I thank you for it. Now that that is out of the way, let's get to today's video. This video will be the unboxing of the Precon, where I'll show you everything that comes in the box, including the deck, card by card, and then tomorrow I will release an upgrade guide, where I'll go over some options of what I believe that you should take out and then add back in to help make the deck either more fun to play a little better, or best case scenario, both. This deck's color identity is red, green, and white, also known as Naya, and uses Yuma Proud Protector as the commander. Since the Outlaws Precons went back to the smaller packaging, Yuma is hard for me and probably others to read, so let's take a closer look at what it does real quick. Yuma is 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, and 5 generic mana to cast for a 6/6 legendary human ranger with 3 abilities. The first ability says that this spell costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each land card in your graveyard. Well, that seems helpful. The second ability says whenever Yuma Proud Protector enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a land, and if you do, draw a card. And finally, the third ability says that whenever a desert card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 4/2 green plant warrior creature token with reach. Going by what Yuma does, I assume that this deck will have a lot to do with lands, more specifically deserts, and possibly tokens. Usually, when you see an ability that allows you to sacrifice lands, there are also ways to get them back. That means we may also see some landfall cards as well. I could be wrong since I'm only taking an educated guess, so let's rip this bad boy open and I'll show you what's in the box and we can find out together. So here we have the outside of the box. It is the Desert Bloom box. It is red, green, and white. It says discard lands, grow them back. On the back side has a picture of the commander, which I showed you, and then it says bring life to the desert. So let's take a look at what's inside. What you'll notice is that this is also the smaller packaging from the Fallout ones and the ones before that. That means that the counters are probably going to be smaller and probably more useless. Sadly. Alright, so the part where there's usually some nice counters and better things than this, these things suck. But we get them anyway, and then we got +1/+1 counters on the back. They're a little bit thinner than the other ones, but they still work. I mean, you don't really need to have thick counters, I guess. Here is the little other insert. So it has a little bit about the deck, some extra commander rules, a picture of whatever that is. And then on the back, it has Yuma Proud Protector, which is the commander, and a little bit about that card. Most people don't care about the insert. I use these dividers in my stuff. We've got stuff inside the little package here, which is a Collector's Booster sample pack. We have a life wheel, we're back to generic life wheels, which is nice, so you don't have to worry about putting them with the deck. And they, you can do whatever you want with them. I'll put the deck box together. It'll take me a second here. And I'll show you what that looks like. So we're back to the horizontal boxes, but at least they're not the crappy ones with little glue tabs that they fall apart. But it has the 3 colors of the deck on the front, picture of Yuma on the back, and then the Planeswalker symbols on the sides. It's a better box than we've been getting for a while. At least they kept that. And then after that, we have the deck, which I'll show you in a second. First, we'll open up the booster sample pack. Let's zoom and get to it. Don't know what to expect out of this, so hopefully it's something pretty cool. So we've got Obeka, Splitter of Secrets, extended art, not foil. And then we have Buried in the Garden, which is a special treatment. Not really too fancy there, so nothing spectacular. Oh, it is foil, though, if that makes a difference. But we're not here for this. That's just the extra bonus. We're here for this. So let me open it up, and we'll get to it. We'll split it in half to make it easier to wield, as I always do, and we'll go through. So this is Yuma. This is the... Oh, look at that. Thought it was the thick version because it's different than normal. They're extended art now. That must be a change. I don't remember that being a change, but that's pretty cool. I already went over what Yuma does, so we'll skip that. So that's what the picture was of. This is the secondary commander. It's called Kiri, Talented Sprout. This one is green, white, red, and 1, so 4 converted mana value. For an 0/3 plant druid with 2 abilities, it says other plants and tree folk you control get +2/+0. And then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, return target plant, tree folk, or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Oh, that's not bad, actually. So we'll start off with what looks like a reprint. Scavenger Grounds, Sun Titan, Omnath Locus of Rage. These are all reprints. Descend upon the symbol. I don't recognize this, so I'll read it. It is a 6-cast sorcery that says exile all creatures, and then it has an additional ability that says Delirium. Create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Chromatic Lantern, great mana fixing, one of the better ones in Magic. Marshal's Anthem, another reprint. Sheltered Thicket, looks like all the rares are going to be in the front for this one. That's how they ordered these. Scoot Swarm, really good card. Hour of Promise is land fetching. Oracle of Moldiah. Ramunap Excavator. Shattered Grove. World Shaper. Lots of reprints. Nesting Dragon, I believe this is a reprint, but just in case it's not, I'll read it. It's a 5-cast 5/4 dragon with flying and landfall, and the landfall ability says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/2 red dragon egg creature token with Defender, and when this creature dies, create a 2/2 red dragon creature token with flying and has basically fire breathing, so you pay a red and it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. That may be a reprint. Turn Timber Sower, that is a reprint. Savine's Reclamation. Ancient Green Warden, great. I actually needed one of these horribly. Titania, Protector of Argoth. This is a reprint, but I'm going to read it because it's a pretty good one. It's a 5-cast 5/3 legendary elemental that says when it enters the battlefield, you return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then it says whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. This is actually a pretty good card. Return of the Wildspeaker for some card draw or some mass buffing. Perennial Behemoth, I don't recognize it right off the top of my head, so it's a 5-cast artifact beast that's a 2/7. That says you may play lands from your graveyard, and it has Unearth. Avenger of Zendikar, another reprint. Hazizon, Shaper of Sand. This is not a reprint. This is actually a card that I'm looking at for building a deck around, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to open this deck first of the 4 Outlaws of Thunder Junction Commander precons. This is 1 green, 1 red, 1 white for a 3/3 legendary human warrior with Desert Walk, which is kind of unusual because there's a lot of land walking abilities out there, but Desert Walk, this may be a first. It says you may play desert lands from your graveyard, and then whenever a desert enters the battlefield under your control, you create 2 1/1 red, green, and white Sand Warrior creature tokens. I like this card. I really think that I can make a nice budget deck off of this. Escape to the Wilds, another reprint. Heaven and Earth. Genesis Hydra, so a lot of reprints here. Sunscorched Divide, so this is a enemy-colored filter land, and I believe this actually came out in the Fallout series. If not, then, I read it to you. The Mending of Dominaria. Decimate, some removal there. Sand Scout, don't recognize it. This is a 2-cast 2/2 creature human scout that says when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for a desert card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. And then whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, create a 1/1 red, green, and white Sand Warrior creature token. And this ability triggers only once each turn. Embrace the Unknown, another one that I don't recognize. 3-cast sorcery that says exile the top 2 cards of your library, and until end of your next turn, you may play those cards. And playing cards and casting spells are different. When it says play, you can play lands from this ability. And then it has Retrace, which that's a way to get lands into your graveyard. Dune Chanter, another one I don't recognize. 3-cast 2/3 plant druid with reach. Lands you control and land cards you own that aren't on the battlefield are deserts in addition to their other types, so that's pretty cool. And then it says lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Wow, this is actually a pretty good card. And then a final ability says you can tap it and mill 2 cards, and you gain a life for each land card milled this way. Huh, that's a pretty good one. For this deck, specifically. Next is Cataclysmic Prospecting. A 2 red and X spell, that's a sorcery, and it deals X damage to each creature, and for each mana from a desert that was spent to cast this spell, create a tapped treasure token. Vengeful Regrowth, so a 6-cast sorcery that says return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, and then create that many 4/2 green plant warrior creature tokens with reach, and it has flashback for 8. Angel of Indemnity is a 6 to cast 5/5 Angel Warrior with flying, lifelink, and then when it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card with a mana value of 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it has Encore. Cactus Preserve, that's obviously a desert. It is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. It taps to add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. And then it has an ability that for 3, until end of turn, it becomes an XX green plant creature token with reach, where X is the greatest mana value among your commanders, and it's still a land. Rumbleweed is a 11 to cast 8/8 plant elemental. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each land card in your graveyard. It has Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. And then whenever it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +3/+3 and Trample until end of turn. That's not horrible, especially with the reduction in casting cost. Terramorphic Expanse, obviously it's going to have a lot of different cheap budget fetching stuff that can go to the graveyard, so probably a Mirrored Landscape in a second. Swiftfoot Boots for protecting the commander or anything you need to protect. Explore, Soul Ring, Satyr Wayfinder, Perpetual Timepiece. These are all reprints, by the way. Crawling Sensation, another reprint. Painted Bluffs, Magmatic Insight, Command Tower, Crozen Verge. I told you there was going to be other fetches that sacrifice himself. Desert of the True, so I'm assuming that the other 2 are in here as well. Skullwinder, there's another one, Desert of the Indomitable. Jungle Shrine, comes into play tapped Tri-land. Bitter Reunion, I do not recognize this. This is a 2 to cast enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw 2 cards. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice it to have creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. There's the third one, Desert of the Fervent. These are all cycle lands that you just cycle them away and draw a card. Valorous Stance, Dunes of the Dead, Chefnet Dunes, Hashep Oasis, Elvish Rejuvenator. Kind of like the way this deck looks. Winding Way, Springbloom Druid, and that's the first half. Back half of the deck, we have an Arcane Signet, an Unholy Heat, Thrilling Discovery, Electric Revelation, Eccentric Farmer, a Harrow, Ramanap Ruins, Path to Exile for some removal, some really good spot removal. Requisition Raid, I don't recognize this. This is a 1 to cast plus sorcery that has Spree. Spree means that you can pay 1 plus whatever is on here and you'll get the effect. So for 1 extra, you can destroy target artifact. For an additional extra, you can destroy target enchantment. And for an additional 1 more, you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that target player controls. So the cool thing about Spree stuff is you can pay 1 and then to any of these and or. So you can either pay 1 to destroy an artifact and another 1 to destroy an enchantment. You can pay 3 to have all 3. You can pay 1 to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls and just destroy an artifact. It's really a your choice kind of thing, and I like the way that they work. Bovine Intervention, Map the Frontier, so land fetching, Conduit Pylons. These are all from, it looks like Outlaws of Thunder Junction, so we should recognize some of these. Mirage Mesa, Wreck and Rebuild. I don't recognize this one, so I'll read it. 1 green, 1 red, and 1 of any for a sorcery where you get to choose either to destroy target artifact or enchantment, or mill 5 cards. Then you may put a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped, and it flashes back for 5. Angel of the Ruins, Bristling Backwoods, Geosurge Heath, Abraded Bluffs. Love these. I really do. I like these. Scare Tiller. Don't see that very often anymore. Nantuko Cultivator. That's definitely a reprint. And it looks like we're into the lands now. So we've got some plains, some mountains, no full arch like the Fallout had, sadly. Some forests, and then some tokens. I'll show you those. Insect, Elemental, Plant, Zombie, Plant Warrior, Dragon Egg, another Plant Warrior. This one says Bounty Lord Facial, I guess is how you say it. I don't know anything about that. So we've got bounties here, and I'm assuming that that's for something. I don't know what those are for specifically. Oh, cool. On the back, we have wanted posters. That's pretty cool. And then we got Plant, Dragon, Treasure, Ox, Sand Warrior, Angel, and Elemental. And that, my friends, is what comes in the Outlaws of Thunder Junction Desert Bloom Commander Precon. The deck had just about everything that I guessed it would during the intro of this video. It had token making, ways to put lands in the grave and then get them back, and it even had landfall effects, which completely all made sense. Overall, it's not a bad deck to me, as I'm a fan of just about everything it wants to do, except one thing: Yuma. I get why they made Yuma so expensive, but if you can't find a way to get lands into your graveyard to make it cheaper to cast, you may be in for a rough time. I am personally not a big fan of using commanders that cost this much to cast, simply because if the way to get them into play for cheaper isn't working, you're not going to have much fun. Sadly, the card they suggest as the secondary commander, Kiri Talented Sprout, really doesn't fit the deck that well as far as its main goal, so that's not a good option to swap in either. However, Hazazon Shaper of Sand looks really interesting to me for some reason. It deals with lands, deserts specifically, and also has a token-making ability attached to it, so for 3 mana, you can use that as the commander and you wouldn't really lose anything. So, I guess I know what I'm doing for tomorrow's upgrade guide: making a commander swap and upgrading the deck based on Hazazon and not Yuma. What will it look like? You'll just have to tune in tomorrow to find out. Well folks, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you're looking for more Magic content to watch, please go browse my channel and take a look at some of my many other videos. I've made quite a few over the years that I think you'll enjoy, and then please be sure to check back tomorrow for that upgrade guide. Before you go, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, so you can be notified anytime I release new content. Have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow.